The Millionaire Fastlane. Crack the code to wealth and live rich for a lifetime by M.J. Demarco. Part 4. Mediocrity, the Slow Lane Roadmap. Chapter 10. The Lie You've Been Sold, the Slow Lane. What if I told you insane was working 50 hours a week in some office for 50 years, at the end of which they tell you to piss off, ending up in some retirement village hoping to die before suffering the indignity of trying to make it to the toilet on time? Wouldn't you consider that to be insane? Steve Buscemi, Con Air, Paramount Pictures, 2003. Next exit, slow lane, mediocrity ahead. In the previous chapter, we highlighted that a sidewalker has no financial plan and is only concerned with the pleasures of today, often governed by instant gratification. While the sidewalk is a chronic lifestyle that mortgages the future for a pleasurable today, the slow lane is the antithesis, a sacrifice of today in the hopes of a brighter and freer tomorrow. As a slow lane traveler, you're deluged with a series of doctrines that bleed discipline to the trade-off. Get a job and waste 5 days a week toiling at the office. Bag a lunch and stop drinking $10 coffee. Faithfully entrust 10% of your paycheck to the stock market and your 401k. Quit dreaming about that sports car in the window because you can't buy it. Delay gratification until you're 65 years old. Save, 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 because compound interest is powerful. $10,000 invested today will be 10 gazillion in 50 years. Surprisingly, the slow lane is the first convenient exit of the sidewalk and evolves with maturity and increased adult responsibilities. Most college graduates begin their post-schooling life on the sidewalk. I certainly did. Graduation pardoned the license to buy stuff that yielded instant pleasure. Trips to Cancun, a flashy car with a booming stereo, nightly drinking binges, a massive CD collection. Life was all about now, regardless of future consequences. Sidewalkers and people in general instinctively regard a better future. I'll be making more money. I'll hit the lottery. After my father dies, I'll inherit thousands. Future crutches often justify pleasurable nows, and behind the scenes, lifestyle servitude swells. However, with increased responsibilities, perhaps a growing family, mounting debt loads, and future expectations not matching reality, the sidewalker comes to terms with the uncertainty of the sidewalk and does the seemingly responsible lane change. He off-ramps and graduates to the slow lane roadmap, a strategy touted and praised by credible sources. While the sidewalk is typified and undisciplined behavior, the slow lane's financial plan introduces responsibility and accountability into the wealth formula. That can't be bad, right? Unfortunately, the slow lane is like bad directions given at a gas station, except these directions aren't given by strangers, but by people you trust. Teachers, television and radio personalities, financial advisors, and yes, even our parents. These ostensible sources reinforce the strategy's fictitious strength when its efficacy is a sucker's bet. The slow lane is a lifetime wager that is sacrificial today will yield a wealthier tomorrow. The promise of wealth, the price, your life. The slow lane rarely goes challenged. It's a lie so deceiving that when the ruse is uncovered, decades of life have passed. Meanwhile, millions more are being newly indoctrinated to the deception. Yes, my friend, go to school, get a good job, save 10% of your paycheck, participate in your employer's 401k, faithfully invest in the stock market for decades, live frugal, cut coupons, avoid debt, and then, one day, say 40 years from now, you can retire rich. If you buy the lie, you sell off today in hopes of a glorious tomorrow. And when does this glorious tomorrow happen? When you can splurge, spend your millions, and enjoy your life? When? The driving force behind wealth under get rich slow is time. Time employed at the job and time invested in the markets. Your glorious tomorrow might arrive after 40 years, when you're living your last presidential administration and on your second hip replacement. Your glorious tomorrow might arrive when you're 73 years old and soaked in urine and strapped to a stinking bed because you've lost your mind to Alzheimer's. Seriously, when does this slow lane plan of finishing rich actually become real so you can enjoy your millions? As a teenager, Joe reads several personal finance books about getting rich. They tell him to save, get a career, clip coupons, and live below your means. After graduating with a law degree, Joe follows this advice. While it is difficult, Joe follows this plan for wealth diligently. He works 60 hours weekly at his law firm, often neglecting his family and children. His weekdays are consumed at the office, while his weekends are spent home recharging from the rigors of the work week. After 12 years in law, Joe decides his profession is no longer enjoyable, yet he decides to endure as he is just one promotion away from making partner and a guaranteed six-figure salary. As Joe's life progresses, he never loses sight of his goal: retire by age 55, because after all, financial guru David says, the smart people finish rich. Joe saves, works overtime, invests in mutual funds, and participates in his firm's 401k. He continues to endure his job for the sake of the plan. No one said it would be easy. That one day was coming, the day when he'd retire with millions. He justifies that 5 days of misery in a hated job was worth the sacrifice for the future. Then, one hot summer day while mowing the lawn, Joe has a heart attack and dies at age 51, 4 years before his destination. You can either live rich young or live rich old while risking death along the way. The choice is yours, and it shouldn't be a contest. Rich at 25 years old beats the snot out of rich at 65 years old. Ask a youngster, how do you get rich young? Will coupons, mutual funds, and 401ks be the answer? Comedic, I know. Wealth is best lived young and enjoyed while you have health, vibrancy, energy, and yes, maybe even some hair. Wealth is best lived in the prime of your life, not in its twilight after 40 years of 50-hour work weeks have pulverized your dreams into surrender. Deep in our soul, we know this, yet we continue to faithfully pledge obedience to a financial roadmap that promises wealth after 4 or 5 decades. And the bigger concern you should have is, does it even work? The global recession has exposed the slow lane for the fraud it is. With no job, the plan fails. When the stock market loses 50% of your savings, the plan fails. When a housing crisis erases 40% of your illiquid net worth in 1 year, the plan fails. The plan is a failure because the plan is based on time and factors you can't control. Unfortunately, millions of people have faithfully invested decades into the plan only to discover the ugly truth. The slow lane is risky and insufferably impotent. A strategy that requires your life and your dreams to be paid as a penance is a sucker's bet. The slow lane arrogantly assumes that you will live forever and, of course, be gainfully employed forever. Unfortunately, wheelchairs don't fit in the trunks of Lamborghinis. Slow lane mind posts and missives. Over time, the slow laner collects and espouses a series of mind posts reinforced by credible sources. Mom and dad say go to college, graduate, and get a job. Best-selling author David says pay yourself first and finish rich. Sue says open a Roth IRA and contribute 10% of your paycheck. Ramsey says snowball that debt. All these missives formulate the slow laner's mind posts, a journey to wealth that consumes a lifetime. Debt perception. Debt is evil. It must be religiously attacked, even if that means working overtime for life. Time perception. My time is abundant, and I will gladly trade my time for more dollars. The more hours I can work, the more I can pay off my debt and save money for retirement at 65. Education perception. Education is important because it helps me earn a bigger salary. Money perception. Money is scarce, and every dime and dollar must be accounted for, budgeted, and perilously saved. If I want to retire by 65 with millions, I have to ensure I don't squander my hard-earned money. Primary income source. My job is my sole source of income. Primary wealth accelerator. Compound interest is powerful because $10 invested today will be worth $300,000 in 50 years. Oh yes, and don't forget about mutual funds, home appreciation, and my employer's 401k. Wealth perception. Work, save, and invest. Work, save, and invest. Repeat for 40 years until retirement age, 65 years old, or if I'm lucky and the markets return 12% yearly, maybe 55. Wealth equation. Wealth equal job plus market investments. Destination. A comfortable retirement in my twilight years. Responsibility and control. It's my responsibility to provide for my family, although for that plan to work, I have to rely on others, including my employer, my financial advisor, the government, and a good economy. Life perception. Settle for less, give up on big dreams, save, live frugal, don't take unnecessary risks, and one day I will retire with millions. So how do you know you're being sold the slow lane? The following lists the primary munitions indigenous to the slow lane roadmap. Go to school, get good grades, graduate, pay yourself first, overtime, corporate ladder, save X% of your paycheck, contribute to your 401k, invest in mutual funds, buy and hold, paychecks, pensions, benefits, diversify, raise your insurance deductibles, the stock market, say no to expensive lattes, be frugal, get out of debt, clip coupons, cancel your credit cards, dollar cost averaging, get an advanced degree, pay off your house early, your home is an asset, individual retirement accounts, live below your means, understand compound interest. When you encounter these buzz phrases, be wary. Someone is selling you the slow lane as a total plan to wealth. While coupons and other slow lane strategies aren't worthless in a plan, they shouldn't be the plan. The slow lane as a total plan is the problem, not the slow lane being a part of a plan. This distinction is critical because financial discipline must transcend to any wealth campaign. The Slow Lane Roadmap, a mathematical introduction. How is wealth created in the slow lane? To expose its method and its weakness, you need to reverse engineer and deconstruct the strategy down to its mathematical roots or its wealth equation. In other words, you want to expose the plan's theoretical speed limits for wealth, which is always determined by two variables: your primary income source, a job, and your wealth acceleration vehicle, market investments. These two variables formulate the slow lane's wealth equation and governs its wealth creation power, or in this case, futility. Wealth equal primary income source, job plus wealth accelerator, market investments. This equation factored looks like this: wealth equal intrinsic value plus compound interest. The primary income variable, intrinsic value, has two variables itself, dependent on how you are paid within your job. It could be either intrinsic value equal hourly wage times hours worked, or intrinsic value equal to yearly salary. Compound interest is derived from market investments, which is the universal concept that X dollars invested in the stock market today will be worth X millions dollars decades from now. In Chapter 12, we will examine the slow lane's mathematical constructs and exploit their true deficiency. The rain, you'll discover why society's plan, your parents' plan, the media's plan, and the guru's plan are horrific strategies for wealth. Have you sold your soul for a weekend? Your soul is worth more than a weekend. Banality followed by blindness is the side effect of slow lane institutionalization. In 2007, on a cold January morning, a violinist stationed himself in a Washington, D.C. train station and played 6 classical pieces from Bach. Except this was no ordinary violinist, and it was no ordinary violin. This was an incognito Joshua Bell, one of the greatest musicians in the world, who nights earlier had played to a sold-out concert hall in Boston for nearly $100 a ticket. As Joshua played his $3.5 million violin in the midst of the morning commuter rush, approximately 2,000 people passed through the station, most of them on their way to work. He played continuously for 45 minutes. Only 6 people stopped to listen briefly. No crowd formed. About 20 folks gave money but continued onward at a brisk pace. When he finished, there was silence, except for the rhythmic hustle of a busy train station. No applause, no crowd, no recognition. This experiment, conducted by the Washington Post, uncovers something incredibly powerful and disturbing. Not even the greatest musician in the world can illuminate the blinding depth of the rat race and those entrenched by its indifference. Have you become so numbed by making a living that the living has been sucked out of your life? Are you so blinded by Monday through Friday that any beauty that sings before you is muted? The train commuters come and go like zombies. They are oblivious to the splendor of Monday through Friday. Yet, what if this experiment occurred on Saturday? Would its outcome be any different? This story exposes the slow lane for its contempt. When you trade your life mindlessly for a paycheck, you risk being blinded to life itself as you cursively walk by it in a busy train station. Life does not begin on Friday night and end on Monday morning. Thank God it's Friday. Born and bred in the slow lane. A friend recently berated me because I declined to go out on a Saturday night. Are you crazy? It's Saturday night, he wailed. I told him something a slow laner doesn't understand. For me, every day is a Saturday because I haven't sold off Monday through Friday. Wealth's provenance evolves from the 3 F's: family, fitness, and freedom. Freedom's value to wealth is evidenced on Friday evenings, which just so happened to be the setting for an epic conversation I had with my friend at a happy hour. While we sat on the bar's patio, we heard a chattering cacophony of patrons engaged in spirited conversation. The bar was happening, and within the rustling soundtrack, you'd never guess a recession was ongoing. Over the noise, I asked my friend, "What do you hear?" "I hear people having a great time, a celebration," she said. I asked further, "Why?" "Why what? It's Friday," she declared. I probed further. "What's so special about Friday? If we came here on Monday, this place would be empty and the sound of celebration would be absent. What makes Friday so special as opposed to Monday or Wednesday?" Knowing that she was trapped into one of my paradoxical interrogations, she humored me. People get paid on Friday?" I levied the verdict. Friday evening is glorified because people celebrate the dividends of their trade. 5 days of work bondage exchanged for 2 days of unadulterated freedom. Saturday and Sunday is the paycheck for Monday through Friday, and Friday evening symbolizes the emergence of that payment, freedom for 2 days. Friday is the reason, thank God it's Friday, exists. On Friday, people are paid freedom in the currency of Saturday and Sunday. -60%, the dismal return of the slow lane. The ultimate insanity is to sell your soul Monday through Friday for the paycheck of Saturday and Sunday. Yes, give me $5 today, and in return, I'll give you $2 back tomorrow. 5 for 2. No. How about 5 loaves of bread today, and in return, I'll give you 2 back tomorrow? No again. Why? This is a smoking deal. Hopefully, you recognize that 5 of anything in exchange for 2 is a bad return. The 5 for 2 return on investment is a negative 60%. If you make consistent negative 60% return on investments, you'd go bankrupt quick. What logical person would accept such a horrific deal? Most likely, you already do. When you accept the slow lane roadmap as your strategy, you accept 5 for 2. You give 5 days of work servitude in exchange for 2 days of weekend freedom. Yes, Monday through Friday is prostituted for Saturday and Sunday. While people easily recognize and reject a negative 60% return on their money, they do it willingly with their time. If you have children, you have to question this normality. Kids grow on Mondays and Tuesdays. I've heard they grow on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays too, yet they don't wait for the weekend to grow up. When little Miranda speaks her first word, walks her first walk, dances the first dance, she doesn't care if you're in Houston for the quarterly managers meeting. Kids and relationships don't wait for the weekend to grow. And while you're out trading 5 for 2, guess what? The kids get older, and so do you. People who are bankrupt with time see their freedom, their families, and their relationships disintegrate. Time is mismanaged because the slow lane is predicated on time. 5 days of servitude for 2 days of freedom is not a good trade unless you trade time into a system that can give you a better return on your time. Instead of 5 for 2 for life, how about the 5 for 2 trade that has the potential to blossom into a better ratio, like 1 for 2 or 3 for 10? Would you make a 5 for 2 trade knowing that it could transform into a 1 for 10? Would that be something to invest in? While I worked my plan, I gave 7 for 0. I worked 7 days and didn't take a day off because I knew the roads on my roadmap converged with dreams. I worked for a better ratio in the near future, not in 40 years. I controlled my destiny, and eventually my time trade investment yielded a dividend of 40 years. Now I do 0 for 7. I work 0 days and get 7 days of freedom. Sadly, if you are entrenched in the slow lane, your options to shatter this negative 60% return for your freedom is restricted. Remember, wealth is defined by freedom, and if you require proof, look no further than Friday night, when people celebrate freedom as the slow lane dictatorship takes a weekend furlough. Normal is condemnation to mediocrity. Revolutionary Road, the 2008 movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, does an excellent job portraying the slow lane's death grip. A young couple find themselves living in the suburbia, going through the motions of life. The husband, DiCaprio, goes to work every morning and immerses himself in a crowd of his peers, while his wife, Winslet, fills the role of the good housewife. Both instinctively know that something is wrong. They are settling. They've accepted normal. They've forsaken their dreams for the insane plan of everyone. Throughout the movie, we witness their attempt to escape, and with perilous consequences. The problem is, we've been brainwashed to accept the slow lane roadmap as normal. The defective roadmap gains traction early in life and is sanctified as the commoner's only probable means to wealth. Sounds logical, right? Folks like us just don't get rich playing pro ball, rapping, singing, acting, or entertaining, so we are left with the slow lane. And for some, that just might be okay. But for the rest of us with big dreams, big goals, and big ideas, it just doesn't cut the mustard. Here's a slow lane story pulled from the pages of the Fastlane forum. In the quest for becoming wealthy, my life has become quite uncomfortable. It all started 5 years ago when I had nothing. I had turned 30 years old, and I thought that living paycheck to paycheck was no way to live at all. I made a vow to myself that I would become wealthy. In order to do this, I took on a second job and saved all of the money from that job while I used the money from the first job to pay for my living expenses. Basically, the last 5 years of my life have been as such in order for me to save money, living and paying relatively cheap rent for an 8-13 foot room, using public transportation and the motorcycle for transportation, working almost every day with no days off during the week, rarely eating out, never buying toys or nice things for myself or wife, almost never going out and having a good time. With the second job and my economical lifestyle, I have managed to save about $50,000 in 5 years. It would have been more, but I lost a good $30,000 when I invested right before the Dow hit its peak in October of 2007. I've reached a breaking point. 5 years is a long time to live in a room no bigger than a jail cell. The jobs are mind-numbing. I feel like my life is a prison. I have a good lifestyle for saving money, but at the expense of my mental sanity and happiness as a human being. I just feel like I can't live like this any longer. The slow laner accepts an existence of frugality and sacrifice to a tipping point where life feels like incarceration. Does this guy's life seem awesome or mediocre? Will it merge with a dream? The slow lane plan forsakes the now for a faint promise of a wealthy future. I don't consider sell for less a strategy, which is why the slow lane is predisposed to mediocrity. Life isn't great, but it isn't so bad either. No, it could be better, but you've got to swap the slow lane for a new plan. Chapter Summary: Fast Lane Distinctions. The slow lane is a natural course correction from the sidewalk, evolving from taking responsibility and accountability. Wealth is best experienced when you're young, vibrant, and able, not in the twilight of your life. The slow lane is a plan that takes decades to succeed, often requiring masterful political prowess in a corporate environment. For the slow laner, Saturday and Sunday is the paycheck for Monday through Friday. The default return on your time in the slow lane is negative 60%, 5 for 2. The 5 for 2 trait inherent in the slow lane is generally fixed and cannot be manipulated because job standards are 5 days a week. The predisposed destination of the slow lane is mediocrity. Life isn't great, but it isn't so bad either.